T minus 4 minutes. T minus 3 minutes. T minus 2 minutes. T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Four, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, folks, this is Kenny with Just the Right Angle coming at you live with an update on some stories that matter to you. First off, for those who don't know, Donald Trump has turned 80 today. Actually, my wife asked me who was the oldest president, so I had to look it up. It turns out, technically, in terms of inauguration, Joe Biden was actually the oldest one. According to this is a website called Hello Magazine, and it covers some of the details of some of the ages of the presidents. Although, technically, I believe Trump would be the oldest when he leaves office, because there was, of course, 4 years where he was not president. Well, it says here Joe Biden only follows Trump 70 to 68 days. Oh, actually, so this actually breaks it down by days. So Joe Biden and Donald Trump were both 78 when they were inauguration, but for the second time, since this is the second time, Trump is actually older by 78 years and 220 days. He previously held the record. So here's the article here. At 78 years and 220 days, with his inauguration for a second time on January 20th, 2025, Trump is currently the oldest president in American history to take office. And of course, it mentions his birthday. Joe Biden is narrowly second. He was put in there at 78 years and 61 days. And he was 82 years old when his term concluded, making him the oldest sitting American president in history so far. Right behind him is Hollywood's president, Ronald Reagan, as many names he's known. He was 69 years and 349 days when he went in office on January 20th, 1981. And then it goes through some of the other presidents in history. William Henry Harrison, James Buchanan, George H.W. Bush, Zachary Taylor. And then it goes through, talks about some of the youngest presidents. There are two at 42 years and 322 days. Theodore, also known as Teddy Roosevelt, is officially considered the youngest person to be named the president of the United States. Although he did so basically after William McKinley's assassination. The one to be elected to office is John F. Kennedy, who is 43 years old and 236 days old. So this is a little trivia for folks. I'll just put a link to this article so you can read it on your own, just for fun. It'll be in the chat. Of course, some important stuff happened over this weekend. Yesterday was the Arkansas Democrat Party's state convention. Oddly enough, they were able to have a guest speaker during this convention. This was the Democrat National Committee Vice Chair Malcolm Kenyatta. The Republican Party of Arkansas State Convention didn't even bother with a keynote speaker. And there's some little sections here of his speech in the Democrat Gazette. This article, you do have to be a subscriber in order to read. But he talks about mainly the civil rights issue. Of course, he doesn't talk about how the civil rights issue was twisted from actually rights for people to be able to work to turning into making government, being dependent on government dependency. So that's kind of a thing he didn't mention. There were more than 300 delegates at the convention. I don't know how many counties they have people from. They did a straw poll from who their candidate for president will be. Former U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg came out on top with 20% of the vote, followed by Alexandria Cortez and former Vice President Kamala Harris. That kind of puts you an idea of where the Democrat Party of Arkansas stands and compared with the rest of the state. This is the part I did find interesting. While eager to unseat Republicans in November, the party was divided over its platform Saturday, with some delegates arguing it was too vague. So they did have at least some debate regarding their platform. And I looked on a Facebook post, and it turns out that there was supposedly an attempt to try to make different changes, but that attempt was blocked. And let me see if I can find the original post to that. It was on Facebook by someone named Katie Rhodes, who has mainly been focused on the effort to deal with the data center stuff. So I don't know if they had any debate regarding data centers. I don't know if they even had anybody film or live stream the event. As far as I know, I am the only one who bothered to film and live stream the Republican Party of Arkansas State Convention. There was efforts by a few people to try to get me to not record that, but I went ahead and did so anyway. But here you can share this tab. This is by Katie Rhodes's post. Hail Scott, here there was a side group of people that wanted to fundamentally change the proposed platform. They asked to suspend the rules to open debate and allow amendments from the floor. As far as I know, allowing amendments from the floor hasn't happened in recent years. That ultimately failed. And Katie Rhodes, who apparently was a delegate here, voted against it because that would have allowed anyone in the room to submit amendments, which is not typical. It was a lower attended convention, which means it was not representative as a party as a whole. Well, that's, of course, your state convention. That's the only time when groups of people from across the state can make any rule changes. So, given the low attendance, major changes could have been implicated just by being the loudest person in the room. That was intentional, arranged, and secret. Well, if it follows like most other conventions, it's simply the majority of people that decide, and it's taken to a vote. Of course, there could have been an issue like what happened with the Republican state convention, where the chair refused to actually count how many votes were for and against something, so that could have happened as well. So it looks like the Democrat Party, and I've said this before, is controlled by the consultant class that don't want any debate and dialogue from delegates, just like the Republican Party is. I've mentioned before on this channel about some of the consultants who work for the Democrat Party. Many of them have the same clients, big energy, big healthcare, as the ones that control the Republican Party. So anyway, that's a post by Katie Rhodes.
There is zero evidence
about this. She often talks about some of the data center fight. But anyway, that was the deals regarding the state convention. And I could post a link to the Democrat Gazette, but again, you would have to be able to actually subscribe in order to read how most of that went. For the most part, I don't think Democrats are going to even gain what we call the supermajority, meaning I doubt they're going to make any significant gains within the state of Arkansas. Arkansas is a Republican supermajority, meaning not only can we pass anything, and Republicans could pass anything in the state legislature and be signed by the Republican governor, but they could even pass any budget issue because it takes 3/4 of the House to do that, and Republicans currently have more of that. And on a similar note regarding Republicans, Phil Stowers resigned from the Pulaski County Quorum Court. This was June 12th. He had been there for several years, since 2005. And there's a copy of his resignation letter addressed to Justin Blagg, the Quorum Court's parliamentarian. So currently, that section is District 13, does not have a representative on the Quorum Court. There is a person, Republican Wendy Potter, who is running opposed for the district seat in the 2026 election. But right now, that seat is vacated. Now, the governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, can appoint someone to fill the vacancy. From what I understand, it cannot be Wendy Potter, since she's a candidate to fill that office after the 2026 election and when those candidates are seated in November. So whoever is appointed would serve out the remainder of Stowers' term until the inauguration in January. And then this is parts of Pulaski County and mainly North Little Rock area. In May, the Pulaski County Quorum Court had voted to censure Stowers after an argument regarding the data centers. Justice of the Peace Luke McCoy, who is also a Republican, made the motion regarding the censure. And so there's been a lot of debate. I don't believe he says it in his resignation letter, but there's been a lot more strife within the Pulaski County and Quorum Court regarding the data centers. Avio is seeking to build a $6 billion data center near Wrightsville. From what I understand, I did attend, as I mentioned before, I attended a data center meeting where, according to one of the Google people, the solar farm in Grant County is supposed to provide the power for that data center. And then there is another data center that is being done by Google in the Port Little Rock area, not too far from where we had the Ellen Wind Power scam. I don't have the details of who all else is running for Justice of the Peace. Regarding Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr., he has an opponent named BJ Wyrick, who actually informed me about some of what was going on regarding the data center issue. And then there is also a candidate for Pulaski County Republican judge to replace Barry Hyde, who is the current judge of Pulaski County, who helped sneak in the 2 data center plans. And his name is Mike Russian. So that's the fight that's going on right now. To put in perspective, there was a moratorium that was done during an emergency meeting where the Pulaski County Quorum Court voted to delay any future data centers, but excluded the ones that had been mentioned. However, that vote was later on miscounted. Apparently, it didn't have enough votes to pass that during that Quorum Court meeting. Since then, there's some other Quorum Court meetings where that moratorium has been delayed. And so one extra justice of the peace who is against data centers could make the difference, and what happens regarding the debate on what happens regarding those facilities. There is somebody that I have been talking to. There's a few people that I myself have looked around to see who could be possible appointees that we would recommend and urge Sarah Huckabee Sanders to support. But right now, it's kind of up in the air as to who that would be. But anyway, just wanted to give a quick update on a few things that were going on. There is supposed to be some kind of UFC fight going on somewhere at the Pulaski County, the White House. I'm not quite sure where that is. Yeah, slight difference there. There's a lot of people commenting about it on Rumble, but I don't know where to actually watch UFC. I think it's UFC 250, or it might be America's 250 celebration. I can't tell which one it is. But there's supposed to be MMA fights at the White House going on in celebration of Trump's 80th birthday. Folks, follow me at Just the Right Angle, where I give updates on issues that affect you. Keep Arkansas Legal on YouTube. You can also look in the description there for links if you want to donate. Remember the verse that I put on here as a thumbnail, Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. You all have a wonderful day.